and welcome back to Caitlyn's Corner. And guess what day it is? What day are we celebrating this week? We are celebrating Read a Book a Day. And we've been reading all kinds of books all week about books. Books about books. And today I saved a very special one. This is one of my favorite new books, and it is called Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lessmore. See, there's Mr. Morris. You see all the books flying? This is a cool story. So if you're ready, we're going to get started, all right? Morris Lessmore loved words. He loved stories. He loved books. His life was a book of his own writing, one orderly page after another. He would open it every morning and write of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. So there's Mr. Morris writing every single morning. But every story has its upsets. One day the sky darkened. The winds blew and blew. Oh no! Look at the wind blowing. And there's a man. I think that's Mr. Morris. Oh no. Till everything Morris knew was scattered, even the words of his books. Oh no. The scattered mess. And there's Mr. Morris. Does he look happy? No, Mr. Morris looks sad. He didn't know what to do or which way to go, so he began to wander and wander. Where's he wandering off to? Then a happy bit of happenstance came his way. Rather than looking down, as had become his habit, Morris Lessmore looked up. Drifting through the sky above him, Morris saw a lovely lady. She was being pulled along by a festive squadron of flying books. There's a lady being pulled by some flying books. Have you ever seen a lady like that? Morris wondered if his book could fly, but it couldn't. The flying lady knew Morris simply needed a good story, so she sent him her favorite book. The book was an amiable fellow and urged Morris to follow him. So amiable fellow means a friendly fellow. It's a friendly book, and he said, "Come on now." And that kind of looks like Humpty Dumpty, doesn't it? So he's telling Mr. Morris to follow him. The book led him to an extraordinary building where many books apparently nested. They nested. So what kind of building was that? There's Mr. Morris walking in. Morris slowly walked inside and discovered the most mysterious and inviting room he had ever seen. It was filled with the fluttering of countless pages, and Morris could hear the faint chatter of 1,000 different stories, as if each book was whispering an invitation to adventure. Wow. An invitation to adventure. Then his new friend flew up to him and landed on his arm. It held itself open as if hoping to be read. The room rustled to life, and so Morris's life among the books began. So now Morris is among the books, all kinds of books. Morris tried to keep the books in some sort of order, but they always mixed themselves up. The tragedies needed cheering up and would visit with the comedies. The encyclopedias, weary of facts, would relax with the comic books and fictions. All in all, it was an agreeable jumble. Morris found great satisfaction in caring for the books. gently fixing those with fragile bindings and unfolding the dog-eared pages of others. So there's Morris fixing the books and trying to keep them organized. Sometimes Morris would become lost in a book and scarcely emerge for days. So he got lost in a book. Look at him. He is all over that book. And look, he's still in the book, tumbling and tumbling, and now he's over here. Morris liked to share the books with others. Sometimes it was a favorite that everyone loved, and other times he found a lonely little volume whose tale was seldom told. Everyone's story matters, said Morris, and all the books agreed. So Morris is introducing the people to some stories that have never been told, and even some old favorites. At night, after all the stories that needed telling had been told and everyone had settled down to their proper places on the shelves, the great big dictionary would get in the last word. It was then that Morris Lessmore would once again write in his own book. He wrote of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. So there's Morris, writing in his stories at night this time. The days passed, so did the months. There's Morris sitting by the tree. There's Morris sitting by the tree. More days and months pass. And then years. And then more years. You see how he's aged? Is he a young boy anymore? No, he's an older man. And Morris Lessmore became stooped and crinkly. But the books never changed. Their stories stayed the same. Now his old friends took care of him the way he had once cared for them. And they read themselves to him each night. So now the books are taking care of Mr. Morris, just like he had cared for them all those years. Then, one day, he filled the last page in his book. He looked up and said with a bittersweet sigh, "I guess it's time for me to move on." So he wrote the last page in his book one day. The books were sorry, but they understood. Morris put on his hat and took his cane. As he went to the door, he turned and smiled and then waved goodbye. "I'll carry you all in here," he said, pointing to his heart. There's Morris saying goodbye to his book friends. The books waved their pages, and Morris Lessmore flew away. And as he flew, he changed back to the way he'd been that long ago day when they'd all first met. And so there's Morris, and he changed back. And now he's the one flying with the books, just like that lady did. The books were quiet for a while. Then they noticed that Morris Lessmore had left something behind. "It's his book," said his oldest friend. Inside was Morris's story. All of his joys and sorrows, all that he knew, and everything he'd hoped for. And there's Morris's book he'd worked on for all that time. Then the books heard a small, expectant sound. There in the doorway was a little girl. She looked around with wonder. Then something fantastic happened. Morris Lessmore's book flew up to her and opened its pages. There's his book. It flew to her. The girl began to read, and so our story ends just as it begun. With the opening of a book. And there she is. Although our story has ended, our story has just begun too, because now she's opening a book and she's going to carry on Mr. Morris's legacy. So I hope you enjoy Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lessmore. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Read a Book Day. I hope you settle down and read a book. I don't care if it's picture books, a book of words, a magazine book. Just read today. Thank you for tuning in. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.